Thanks for the upgrade, my dear. Ethan grinned as he strutted into the living room, tossing his sunglasses onto the coffee table. Dressed in a sharp tailored suit and gleaming new shoes, he stood there like he owned the world. His designer luggage practically screamed luxury, first-class tickets to Europe, 5-star hotels, high-end logos galore. This is the life I've been missing, Sarah. I couldn't help myself. I burst out laughing. What's so funny? He snapped, brows furrowed. Oh, Ethan, I said, shaking my head. You have no idea what you've done. My name's Sarah. I'm 34, and I work in cybersecurity. I've also spent the last 7 years married to a man who turned out to be a red flag wrapped in charisma. Ethan was always the charmer, the dreamer, the one with the big ideas. I was the one making those ideas actually happen. Steady job, stable income, cleaning up his messes while he jumped from one doomed scheme to the next. I ignored the signs, the missing money, the endless excuses, the way he never quite seemed to contribute, because I wanted to believe we were a team. That changed last week, at 2 a.m., when Ethan made a mistake he couldn't charm his way out of. While I was asleep, he crept downstairs to my laptop. Maybe he thought I'd never notice. But my job had trained me to sniff out fraud and scams. Unfortunately for him, he picked the wrong laptop and the wrong card. Ethan used my computer to access what he thought was my credit card, snapped a few photos of the details, and slipped back into bed like nothing had happened. The next morning, sipping my coffee, I spotted the flood of notifications on my phone. Nearly $50,000 in charges, designer clothes, luxury watches, first-class flights to Paris. I felt my stomach twist, and then I smiled. You see, the card he used wasn't personal. It was a dummy card, part of a cybersecurity training program I run at work. It's designed to simulate fraud scenarios. Every transaction triggers instant alerts and flags the authorities. In his greed, Ethan had just made himself the star of a real-time case study. I called my lawyer, Chloe, right away. You are not going to believe this, I said, laying it all out. She didn't even try to contain her laughter. Wait, he stole the dummy card? The one tied directly to fraud detection. Exactly, I said, calm but deeply satisfied. He probably thought he was being clever. Clever? Chloe chuckled. Every charge he makes is going to be flagged. Have the authorities contacted you yet? Not yet, I replied. But they will. I stayed quiet, letting the situation play out. A few days later, Ethan left a note on the counter, taking some time for myself. Don't wait up. I knew what that meant. He was using my money to live it up in Europe. Every night I got new fraud alerts, Michelin-starred restaurants, luxury suites, wild shopping sprees. Each ping on my phone was a quiet little victory. 3 days in, the call came. This is Agent Keller with Federal Investigations, the voice said. We've detected significant fraudulent activity tied to one of your accounts. Do you know who might be responsible? Yes, I said without hesitation. My husband. There was a pause on the line. Your husband? I explained the situation, the dummy card, the cybersecurity program, the unauthorized use. Agent Keller let out a low whistle. That's a new one, he said. We'll need a formal statement, but based on what we've seen, he's in serious trouble. So when Ethan waltzed back into the house, riding high on a week of indulgence, he had no idea the storm he was walking into. But I was ready. Ethan strolled in like nothing had happened, wearing the spoils of his stolen spree, designer threads, shiny new shoes, and a smug grin stretched across his face. Thanks for the upgrade, he said, flashing me a wink. You really outdid yourself this time. I couldn't hold back the laughter that bubbled up. Not rage, not even disbelief, just pure, stunned amusement. He frowned. That wasn't the reaction he expected. What's so funny? He asked, voice sharp. Oh, Ethan, I said, shaking my head. You're about to find out. He dropped his duffel bag onto the floor with theatrical flair, the dull thud of arrogance. Shrugging off his tailored jacket, he tossed it carelessly over the couch. Seriously, Sarah, he said, you should have told me about that card ages ago. Imagine how much fun we could have had. I leaned against the kitchen counter, arms crossed. Calm. Controlled. And how, exactly, did you think this would end? He smirked, kicking off his shoes like this was some romantic comedy. You're always so uptight about money. I figured you'd get over it once you saw how happy it made me. The audacity would have been maddening, if it wasn't so pitiful. So, the watches, the flights, the hotels, you really thought all of that was a gift from me? Didn't think, he said, jabbing a thumb toward his chest. New. It's about time you loosened up. I gave him a tight-lipped smile that told him absolutely nothing. Just a quiet, unreadable noted. And when he disappeared into the shower, humming some out-of-tune melody like a man on top of the world, I picked up my phone and texted Chloe. He's back. Ready to move forward. Her response came seconds later. Perfect. I'll alert Agent Keller. For the past week, Chloe and Agent Keller had been preparing the case. Ethan's every move had been tracked. Each swipe of that credit card, logged, monitored, flagged. From luxury boutiques to Parisian penthouses, he painted a perfect picture of greed, of arrogance, of someone who thought he was untouchable. What Ethan didn't know was that the card he stole was a dummy account, a training tool from the cybersecurity program I run. Every charge triggered an alert. Every transaction screamed fraud to the authorities. Agent Keller had said it best. Let him walk himself into it. The more confident he feels, the better. So as I stood there, listening to Ethan sing off key in the shower, I felt a strange peace settle in. 4 years, I'd watched him exploit my trust, my stability. Not this time. When he emerged, wrapped in a towel and grinning like the world owed him more, he flopped down on the couch and dug into his bag. You should have seen Paris, he said, holding up a gold watch. The shops, the restaurants, it was like a dream. Sounds incredible, I said, leaning in the doorway. Tell me more. And he did. He told me everything. Champagne at rooftop bars. A boutique in Le Marais where he dropped $5,000 on a single coat. How smooth he was at check-in. How easy it all was. He didn't know I was recording every word. The file already queued up and ready to forward to Agent Keller. And the best part, he said, admiring his watch, nobody suspected a thing. Not even you. The next morning, Chloe and I met for coffee. He's got no defense, she said, scrolling through the case file. Fraud alerts. Purchase history. Last night's confession, it's all airtight. Agent Keller, I asked. Ready. The local police are coordinating with him now. The arrest will happen soon. Ethan thought he'd pulled off the perfect con. But he was never the mastermind. He was the lesson that I nodded, the full weight of everything finally settling on my shoulders. What happens next? I asked quietly. Chloe didn't sugarcoat it. He's facing multiple charges: fraud, identity theft, unauthorized use of a financial account. Given the amount he stole, this won't be a slap on the wrist. Best case, he cuts a deal. Worst case, he's looking at serious jail time. A part of me wanted to feel something: regret, guilt, even sadness. But then I remembered his smug grin, the way he flaunted the stolen luxury as if he deserved it. No remorse, no concern, just ego and entitlement. This wasn't a one-time mistake. It was a pattern, a truth I'd refused to face for too long. Later that evening, Ethan lounged on the couch, scrolling through his phone like he hadn't a care in the world. That familiar knock came at the door, sharp, deliberate. My heart pounded, not with fear, but with anticipation. I opened the door to find Agent Keller and 2 uniformed officers standing on my porch. Good evening, Ms. Miller, Keller said, his tone measured but respectful. Is Ethan home? He's right inside, I replied, stepping aside. Make yourselves comfortable. Ethan looked up, confused by the sudden intrusion. He sat up straighter. What's going on? Agent Keller stepped forward, his calm authority making the room feel 10 degrees smaller. Ethan Miller, you're under investigation for multiple counts of credit card fraud and unauthorized use of financial accounts. We'd like you to come with us for questioning. Ethan's face drained of color. Wait, what? No, this is a mistake. He turned to me, eyes wide with disbelief. Sarah, tell them. This is crazy. I crossed my arms, tilting my head slightly. I don't know, Ethan. You've been awfully busy lately. Maybe you should explain it to them. The officers began reading him his rights as they moved to escort him out. Ethan kept protesting. You can't do this. Sarah, this is a setup. You're my wife. Aren't you supposed to stand by me? I leaned against the doorway, unbothered. Funny. I thought husbands weren't supposed to steal from their wives. Guess we're both learning something today. His expression twisted into desperation as the officers led him toward the door. "You won't get away with this," he spat. I smiled, calm and steady. "Oh, Ethan. I already have." The door shut behind him with a decisive click, leaving the living room silent. I stood there for a moment, staring at the empty space where he'd been. My heart still raced, but not from fear. This was something else. He was gone. Finally, truly gone. But this wasn't the end. About an hour later, Chloe called. "He's in with Agent Keller now," she said. "They've started questioning him. Let me guess. He's playing the victim?" "Spot on," she said with a dry laugh. "He's claiming you gave him permission to use the card." I rolled my eyes. "Of course he is." "Don't worry," Chloe said. "Between the fraud alerts, the evidence trail, and your recording, he doesn't stand a chance." The next morning, Agent Keller called. "We've got everything we need," he said. "Your husband, soon-to-be ex-husband, admitted to using the card, but he's claiming he didn't know it was part of a fraud detection program. He's trying to pin the misunderstanding on you." I leaned back in my chair, unsurprised. That sounds like him. "What happens now?" "We're moving forward with the charges," Keller said. "Given the amount involved, he'll be facing significant legal consequences. The buyer protection services flagged the purchases, so everything's being reimbursed. You're not liable for a cent." The relief was instant. 4 days, I'd carried the fear that Ethan might somehow slither away from accountability again. But hearing Keller's steady voice, hearing him say he doesn't stand a chance, that was the closure I needed. Ethan had underestimated me. But now, he'd never make that mistake again. That's when I realized the full extent of my victory. "Thank you," I said softly, "for everything." "Don't thank me," Agent Keller replied. "This case practically solved itself. You handled it brilliantly." And just like that, it was over. Or at least, the part where Ethan thought he could get away with it. The fallout hit him harder than I ever expected. News of his arrest spread quickly through our circle of friends. The polished image he had worked so hard to curate, the charming, carefree husband, crumbled almost overnight. Nicole, the woman I'd long suspected he'd been seeing behind my back, dropped him the moment the charges became public. The designer goods he had so proudly flaunted were seized. The flights he had booked were canceled. His accounts were frozen. One evening, my phone rang, an unfamiliar number. Against my better judgment, I picked up. "Sarah," came a familiar voice, quieter than I'd ever heard it. I need to talk to you." I didn't even try to hide my laugh. "Ethan, the only person you need to be talking to is your lawyer." "Please," he said, desperation creeping into his voice. "I messed up, okay? I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was just what?" I cut in coldly. "Just trying to steal $50,000 from me? Just hoping I wouldn't notice? Just counting on me being too loyal or too blind to fight back?" Silence. Then, finally, "I thought you loved me." I exhaled sharply, my anger boiling just beneath the surface. "I did, Ethan. I love the person I thought you were. But the man who stole from me, who lied to me, who thought he could get away with it. I don't know that man. And I definitely don't love him." Before he could say anything else, I hung up. A week later, Chloe called. "He took a plea deal," she told me. "No jail time, but he's required to pay back every cent and complete a full year of community service. His credit's trashed. It'll haunt him for years." "Sounds fair," I said, a calm satisfaction settling in my chest. He always wanted to live like a high roller. Now he gets to learn what rock bottom feels like. Chloe chuckled. "You're handling this better than most would." I smiled to myself. Funny, isn't it? 4 years, I thought Ethan was the one holding everything together with his big ideas and charisma. But the truth is, I was the one carrying it all. He was just dead weight. The day the divorce papers arrived, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on the couch, surveying the apartment that finally felt like mine. Truly mine. Ethan's absence wasn't a loss. It was liberation. I thought back to that day he'd swaggered through the front door, dripping in stolen luxury, convinced he'd just pulled off the score of a lifetime. That smug grin, that arrogant posture, the way he mocked me, thanking me for that upgrade. Now he was the one paying the price. For the first time in years, I felt free. This wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was the beginning of a life that belonged to me, unburdened by manipulation, deceit, or emotional debris. The apartment felt strangely quiet in the days that followed. His things were gone, what little he hadn't sold or stuffed into that overpriced duffel bag. But the space felt brighter, lighter, as if even the air had shifted. One afternoon, Chloe dropped by to finalize the paperwork. "How are you holding up?" she asked, her tone brisk as always, though I could hear the care behind it. I handed her a cup of coffee and sat down beside her. "Better than I thought I would," I admitted. "It's strange. I don't even feel angry anymore." I paused, sipping my drink. "I just feel done." And that was the truth. Not bitter, not broken, just free. Chloe smiled, that knowing kind of smile only a true friend can give. "That's because you've already won," she said. "You didn't just survive this, Sarah. You came out stronger." Her words stayed with me as we reviewed the last of the documents, finalizing Ethan's financial restitution. It wasn't just about the money, though knowing he'd be forced to pay back every cent was satisfying. It was about something much deeper, reclaiming my independence. 4 years, I'd let Ethan set the rules. I convinced myself it was easier to keep the peace than to stand my ground. But now I understood. Peace built on silence and sacrifice isn't peace at all. A week later, the official letter of divorce arrived in an ordinary envelope that somehow felt too small to carry something so monumental. I held it in my hands for a long moment, letting the weight of it settle before opening it. My eyes scanned the legal jargon until I found the only words that mattered. Finalized. Irrevocable. I sat down at the kitchen table, the letter resting in my lap. This wasn't the life I'd envisioned when I married Ethan. I'd imagined stability, partnership, a future built on mutual respect. But now, as I looked around the home I'd rebuilt for myself, on my own terms, I realized I had something better: freedom, clarity, and the unshakable knowledge that I was far stronger than I'd ever given myself credit for. That evening, Lauren came over with a bottle of wine and my favorite takeout. "To new beginnings," she said, raising her glass. "And to the absolute dumpster fire you just walked away from." I laughed, clinking my glass against hers. "To never settling for less than I deserve." In the weeks that followed, I started shaping what my new life would look like. I redecorated the apartment, adding colors and pieces that felt like me. I finally booked the solo vacation I'd been dreaming of for years. Just me, the ocean, and the peace that only comes from leaving everything behind for a little while. Ethan tried to reach out a few times, through mutual friends, vague emails, even a poorly written letter claiming he'd changed. But I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. He'd made his choices, and I'd made mine. Word trickled in from the grapevine now and then. He was struggling, hopping between low-paying jobs, his reputation stained by the fraud charges. He'd moved back in with his parents, still trying to charm his way out of consequences, I imagined. But I didn't feel sorry for him. If anything, I felt relieved. He wasn't my problem anymore. One morning, about a month after everything was finalized, I stood by the window sipping coffee as the city stirred to life. Sunlight streamed in, catching the new coat of paint I'd picked out, my favorite shade of blue. The space no longer felt like a battleground. It felt like home. It was mine. Peaceful, full of possibility. I thought back to the years I spent believing in the promise of marriage, in building a life with Ethan. I'd ignored the quiet voice inside me that whispered warnings, the voice that saw through his charm and sensed the selfishness beneath. But now I knew the truth. Walking away wasn't failure. It was power. Lauren and I had started a new tradition, brunch every Sunday. Over mimosas and waffles that weekend, she grinned at me. "So what's next?" I smiled, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time: excitement. "Honestly, just focusing on myself. Work's great, and I'm thinking of taking another trip. Maybe somewhere quiet, in the mountains this time." She raised her glass. "That's what I like to hear. You deserve it." And I did. For the first time in years, every decision I made was entirely mine. No compromises, no second-guessing, just freedom. Occasionally, someone would mention Ethan in passing. I'd hear about his latest struggles, his attempts to regain control of a life he never really respected. The luxury, the ego, it was all gone now, replaced by reality. The last time I heard from him was a rambling email, part apology, part pity party. I read the first few lines, then deleted it. I didn't need his closure. I'd already found it within myself. That evening, I sat on my balcony, a glass of wine in hand, watching the city sparkle beneath the night sky. I thought about everything I'd been through, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the fight to reclaim what was mine. It hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. I no longer felt angry. I wasn't bitter. I was grateful. Ethan's betrayal forced me to confront my strength, to stop compromising, to start choosing me. I learned to trust my instincts, to value my independence, and to never again hand over the reins of my life. I lifted my glass to the stars. "Here's to me," I said softly. "Here's to starting over." And just like that, I closed the chapter on Ethan for good. The rest of a story, that was mine to write.